My son Lawrence, our only child, was always a carefree and spirited boy. He played with fierce energy, maybe too much, trying to compensate for his slender frame and long, soft blonde hair. He often found himself in trouble and accidents, ignoring our pleas to be cautious. That recklessness probably led to his downfall. About 8 years ago, cycling home from school at his usual reckless speed, he took a corner too fast and collided with a car. He suffered a broken thigh bone and severe injuries to his abdomen. I was called at work and rushed to the children's hospital, where I found Sarah, my wife, clearly distraught. "I'm glad you're here," she said, holding me tightly. "What happened?" I asked. "He was speeding on his bike and hit his head badly. His leg is broken, and he has serious abdominal injuries. They expect he'll recover, but not fully," she replied. "Why? What's the problem?" I looked into her tear-filled eyes, thinking a broken leg would heal. "When he crashed, the bike's handlebars pierced his lower stomach and damaged his private parts," she said. "What kind of damage?" I stared at her, the reality dawning on me. "Will he lose his male organ?" I asked, horrified. "They say he won't be able to father children. His male organ and private organs were badly torn, and the doctors say they can't save them. They need to remove them soon to prevent infection." "The injury was severe," she explained. Sarah took my arm, and we were led to a nearby office by a nurse. "So, doctor, what's the outlook?" I asked, tears threatening to fall. I felt devastated for my 11-year-old boy. "I'm sorry, but it's not good," the doctor said. "He has cuts on his face and a broken leg, but the abdominal injuries are our main concern. His organs are too damaged to save. We can either remove them completely, making him infertile, or perform a gender reassignment surgery to transform him into a girl. He hasn't hit puberty yet and has a slender build, so he might adapt well as a girl. While he won't be able to conceive, he could still have some sensation, just in the opposite gender. I recommend this option, but the decision is yours." "I'm not sure," I said. "Is there really no way to save his male organs?" "I'm afraid not," the doctor replied. I consulted a colleague as well. "You have only minutes to decide. If you don't consent, we'll have to remove the damaged organs immediately to avoid infection. The gender reassignment surgery is more complex and takes longer. Dr. Williams assures me your son should retain sensation, but only as a transgender individual." "I understand," I said, trying to focus on his other injuries. "The abdominal wound will be treated, and an orthopedic team will soon repair his leg. His face, especially around the nose, was injured and will need minor cosmetic surgery later. If he becomes a girl, we might consider additional facial procedures at that time. But the private surgery is the priority," he explained. "What will this mean for him? He was always such a tough, boyish kid, always getting into trouble. How will he handle losing that and becoming someone else? It's difficult to predict. Some boys struggle to adjust and may rebel. Removing his private organs will stop testosterone production, which should calm his restless nature. He will need female hormones, which will make him more compliant. Over time, his body will develop female features like chests and rounded hips. Since he's prepubescent, his voice will remain high," the doctor said. "So, his life as a girl starts now," I said aloud. "Yes. Do you consent to proceed?" "There's no other choice," I answered, looking at Sarah, who was still crying. We signed the consent forms with trembling hands. The doctor shook my hand. "Your son is in the best hands. Please try not to worry. I'll update you as soon as I can." Then he left. I sat back down and held Sarah close. "To think I always wanted a little girl, but never imagined it would happen like this," she said quietly, shaking her head as tears ran down her cheeks. My wife's fertility issues had kept us from having any more children. "Look," I said, "we have to stay hopeful. Once the surgery is done and successful, his life won't be at risk. He'll be different, yes, but we'll have to find a way to help him adjust to this unbelievable situation. Having seen some late-night shows about crossdressers who transitioned and passed well as women, I added, he's young enough to embrace a new way of life. He's always had a slender frame and long hair that looked like a girl's. He used to tell me long hair was in style. Maybe now he'll decide to cut it, or maybe he'll remain a tomboy. I really don't know. I stood and spoke to a nurse, explaining that I wanted to discuss how to care for my new daughter. She said she'd check with the other doctor on duty and would come back after her rounds. Soon the doctor sat down with Sarah and me, explaining we'd need to see a psychiatrist to discuss Lawrence's ongoing care. She handed us a phone number, and I quickly arranged an appointment, convinced Lawrence would recover fully, even if a vital part of him was lost. The receptionist scheduled the psychiatrist's visit for the same time the next day. I returned to Sarah's side, holding her close. Those 2 hours felt like the longest of my life, even longer than when Sarah was giving birth. The only decision we made was that Lawrence would now be called Lila. Finally, the doctor emerged, sweaty and tired-looking. He told us the surgery had gone better than expected. Lawrence's broken thigh had been pinned, his face cleaned up though needing minor follow-ups. The reassignment surgery went smoothly. Though still sedated from pain, he led us to the recovery room where Lawrence lay peacefully asleep, tubes in place. The heart monitor showed a steady pulse and normal temperature. Sleeping for the next 24 hours will help his recovery immensely. We woke him briefly after surgery, but he was in too much pain, so we sedated him again. He'll remain like this until tomorrow, the doctor explained. Don't you mean she, doctor? I reminded him. Yes, of course, he replied. Sorry, it's still an adjustment for me too. Tell me about it, I said. The easiest thing would be for the nurses to change all her name tags to Lila from now on. We all have to make this shift sooner or later, so better to start now. The main thing is that she's alive, and we'll give her the best life possible. It was hard for me. Lawrence was my closest companion. We shared so many father-son adventures, motorsports, football, hill climbing, mountain biking. There's no reason Lila shouldn't enjoy those too, but it was tough to picture. I asked Sarah if she wanted to stay overnight. She said yes, she wanted the parents' room. I told her I'd go home to handle chores and feed the pets, then come back to relieve her in the morning. The next day, Lila remained quite groggy after the long sedation and seemed confused about where she was or what had happened. She drifted in and out of sleep throughout the day, with nurses administering regular pain medication and changing her dressings. I met with the therapist, who gave me some insight into the challenges faced by those who suddenly have to shift their identity later in life. She offered some hope, explaining that Lila would eventually accept the need to change her perspective, though adapting her identity would be more difficult. Lila might develop a more masculine sense of self and could prefer relationships with women rather than men. The doctor explained that hormone therapy would reduce her competitive drive, making her more emotional and compliant. It might take weeks or even months for her hormone levels to stabilize at those typical for a prepubescent girl. The doctor planned regular consultations once Lila was mobile again. When I returned to the hospital, Lila was still sedated, and Sarah had taken some time for herself. Your wife said she's out shopping and will be back later, a nurse informed me. How's Lila? I asked. She's sleeping now and in less pain. She has facial surgery scheduled for 11 a.m. tomorrow to repair her nose and face. The doctors also plan to soften her features a bit, the nurse said. Poor Lila, I thought, now her face would be altered to match her new body. I approached her bed and saw her twitch slightly, like a dog dreaming. I took her hand and was surprised to notice her nails were filed to points and painted pink. I found a note from Sarah explaining she needed a few hours out and had gone shopping for some girls' clothes, planning to return later. I sat by Lila's bedside, staring at her face, and suddenly she woke. Hi, Dad, she smiled. Hi, how do you feel? I asked gently, holding her hand and careful not to use her old name. Still sore between my legs, and my nose hurts, she replied. That'll get better soon. Do you want anything? No, Dad. I'm glad you're here. I want to go back to sleep, she said, closing her eyes. Before long, Sarah returned and placed Lila's new clothes in her locker. We left for the parents' room. Sarah wanted to stay, but I insisted she come home with me. Lila would be sedated much of the night, so it made sense for Sarah to rest before the next surgery. That evening, we discussed how to help Lila understand that the change was necessary and not as bad as it seemed. Sarah said, "I think I'm going to enjoy having a daughter. She was always your son, but I feel Lila and I will grow closer now. She'll have a lot to learn over the coming months to become a convincing girl. I hope she won't turn into a frilly princess and can still do some of the things she loved before," I said. "Maybe we could get her a pony or a dog for company." Sarah, who used to ride horses until a few years ago, loved the idea. "I could get a horse too, and we could ride together," she said excitedly. We went to bed feeling exhausted. When we returned to the hospital around 8 a.m., Lila seemed a bit more alert. Her name tag now read Lila, and she wore a pretty nightgown trimmed with lace. The nurses explained it helped ease the discomfort from her healing abdominal surgery. During the doctor's rounds, they examined Lila's wounds and expressed satisfaction with her progress. I noticed where Lawrence's private area had been was now a swollen, bruised mass covered with stitches extending around her inner thighs and even up toward her navel. Eventually, pubic hair would grow to conceal the scars. Sarah squeezed Lila's hand gently. "Honey, how do you feel?" "Pretty sore, Mum." "What happened?" "You had an accident and are in hospital. You've had surgery to fix your leg and the lower part of your tummy. You hit your head hard, even with your helmet. Do you remember any of this?" "Not really," she said. "Do you remember your name?" Sarah asked. "Lawrence," she answered. "No, darling, your name is Lila," Sarah said. "How old are you?" "Do you remember?" 11 years old. "Are you sure my name is Lila?" She looked at Sarah like she was crazy. "Absolutely, sweetie. Look at your name tag on your wrist and above your bed. They both say Lila, don't they?" "I guess so." "Is Lawrence just a nickname?" "Yes, dear. You were always a tomboy, and that's what got you into trouble," Sarah explained. I added, "How's Daddy's little girl today?" "Still sore, Dad," she said, holding my hand. "I'm not really a little girl, am I?" "Yes, you are, dear. But there's more to come. Soon they'll operate on your face because it was injured in the accident as well. At least all the surgeries will be done together, so you can get through them all at once." "What happened to my face?" she asked. "When you fell, you hit the ground hard. There was a lot of broken glass on the road, and some got under your skin," I explained. "The doctors say you'll be up and about in a few days and should make a good recovery. Soon, we'll have you back on your bike, and we can ride together again. Your old bike was too damaged to fix, so I ordered a new one for you, with 18 gears and wide tires." I pulled out a brochure and handed it to her. She studied the picture of the women's mountain bike and smiled at me. "Dad, that's a girl's bike. I want a boy's bike, please." "Why, Lila? This bike fits you perfectly. It has the right saddle, frame, and gears for you. It'll be strong enough once you're better," I said. "Besides, I already ordered and paid for it yesterday." "Thanks, Dad," she replied, though not very enthusiastically. I pulled out a new helmet from a bag. Unlike her sporty boy's helmet, this one was pink and yellow with little flowers. "Your old helmet was destroyed in the accident, so I got you this new one. Hope you like it." "It's nice, Dad, but it's a bit too girly for me." "What do you mean, honey?" "Dad, I like boys' things, not girls," she said with a playful, indignant smile. Sarah gave me a look, and I realized we were on delicate ground, so I backed off. "Okay," I said. You can see how it feels when you get out of the hospital. I put the helmet back in its box. Just then, one of the most beautiful nurses I'd ever seen arrived and said Lila might be able to get up for a little while. We helped Lila into a chair as the nurses made her bed. She clung to me like a girl, wrapping her arm around my neck, just in case I dropped her. As I laid her back down, I kissed her cheek. The nurse quickly covered her with a pink blanket, though not before noticing she was wearing a frilly nightgown instead of pajamas. Simple reason, Sarah said when Lila asked. Pajamas would hurt too much down there. Sarah then showed me the clothes she'd bought: white knee-high socks, half a dozen pairs of panties, a training bra, and a yellow and orange sundress. Also in the pile were lilac trainers with Polly Pocket dolls stitched on the sides. Lila winced visibly when she saw them, and they were all put in her locker. My wife added some Barbie comics and 2 dolls, Barbie and Ken. I thought you might like something to read and play with. These were all I could find. Thanks, Mum, Lila said, starting to drift off, not yet associating the gifts with being feminine. Soon, she was fast asleep in the chair. Around 10 a.m., a nurse gave Lila her pre-med injection. An hour later, she was headed back to the operating room, thankfully still asleep. The plastic surgeon told us he planned to reshape Lila's face slightly, softening her chin, rounding her nose, giving her fuller lips and a gentle slant to her eyes. He'd repair damaged skin and adjust facial proportions so her eyes, nose, and lips match typical female dimensions. He warned, after this surgery, Lila will look worse than she does now, but once she heals, she'll be absolutely beautiful. Trust me. Will she be in a lot of pain, doctor? I asked. A bit, but she's already on pain medication, so it should be manageable. I'll see you both in a couple of hours. You might want to grab an early lunch instead of waiting here. With that, he headed back to the OR. We returned to the ward around 2:30 p.m. to find Lila's face wrapped in bandages, with small openings for her eyes. Even her mouth was covered. She was being fed through a tube in her mouth and receiving fluids via N4 in her arm. By her bed, a urine bag no longer showed the blood tint it had earlier. We spent the next few days by her side, helping her through this difficult time as best we could. 3 days after the facial surgery, Lila was starting to brighten up. Both surgical teams arrived to remove and replace her dressings. The plastic surgeon was pleased with the progress. Once the layers of bandages were removed, it was clear the accident would leave only minor scarring. Despite swelling, her new pouty lips, tapered eyebrows, softened eyes, and the absence of her previously pointed nose and chin were noticeable. Lila asked for a mirror, but the doctors refused, fearing the bruising would upset her too much. The surgeon came over next and began removing Lila's bandages and the packing from her new female organ. An astonishing amount of bandages came out from that small opening. The surgeon declared she was pleased with the healing and the absence of infection. We can take out the catheter now. Lila, it looks like you're going to be a very pretty and healthy girl very soon. The doctor left, and the nurse started tidying up. Now fully awake, Lila asked Sarah her first question, "Mom, am I really a girl now?" "Why do you ask?" Sarah responded. "Because I could have sworn I was a boy. Now that your bandages are off, dear, it's easy to see that you really are a girl." "Maybe the accident rearranged your brain," Sarah said with a laugh. We all laughed, including Lila, who caught the humor. "Mom, if I'm a girl, why did I dream last night that I kissed Lorraine at school?" "That's odd," Sarah said. "Maybe you were just thanking her. Girls often show thanks with kisses." "No, Mom, it was a hard kiss on the lips. And I dreamed my, got hard while I was doing it." "Lila, I think the pretending is over now," Sarah said gently. "What do you mean?" the boy-turned-girl asked. "You are Lila now, and you will always be a girl. During the accident, you damaged her, so badly that the doctors had to remove it. They transformed you into Lila, our new daughter, instead of Lawrence, our wild son." Lila looked shocked as Sarah explained what the doctors had done. "So, I'm a girl now?" but I don't want to be a girl, I want to be a boy again. I'm sorry, Lila, but that's not possible anymore, sweetheart. You'll have to grow up as a woman to match your new body. The doctors will give you special medicine to help you adjust. Will I have to wear dresses and girls' clothes all the time? She asked, eyes wide. Not if you don't want to, but it might look strange if you only wear jeans and t-shirts. Will I have to wear a bra? Lila asked suddenly. Yes, dear. As you grow, your chest will develop, and you'll need bras to support them, just like I do. Mom, your chests are so big. Will mine be that big? I don't think so, but they'll grow to whatever size nature decides. Mom, I don't want to grow chests, wear girls' clothes, or become a woman, Lila said, breaking down in tears. As we comforted her, the doctor, hearing the noise, came over. What's the problem? She asked. I explained that despite a promising start, Lila was struggling with the transition. That's to be expected. Forced gender changes are tough. You'll need patience and to show Lila the positives of her new identity. Professional counseling will help. I hope so, doctor, I said as she returned to the operating room. Lila lay sobbing quietly. Mom, I need to use the toilet, Lila said. I'll get a bedpan, Sarah replied. No, Mom. I want to use a real toilet. The nurse brought a wheelchair commode, and Lila was wheeled into a large stall. She returned to bed smiling. Dad, it's weird, I tried to hold it, but there's nothing there. And my pee just went everywhere except the bowl. Sarah then brushed Lila's hair, styling it more femininely before we headed home. Soon, her hair was tied into a neat ponytail, shining despite not having been washed for days. Thanks, Mom, that feels better, Lila said, patting the only hand without an for. Mom, when can I go home? I don't know, darling. It depends on how quickly you heal. I'll get better fast, just wait and see. Lila kept her promise. Within 2 weeks, she was ready to leave the hospital, though still in some pain from her pinned leg and private surgery. She had endured numerous medications, blood tests, and hormone injections to begin therapy. During that time, Lila started to accept her new role, especially after her nurse taught her how to regularly dilate her new female organ. Mom, it was really painful the first time Sheila helped, but now it's not so bad. She gave me dilators, and I have to use them 5 times a day. Watch, Lila demonstrated over the next 20 minutes, while Sarah watched, amazed at Lila's new feminine appearance. Soon, Sarah helped her into a pretty sundress, panties, ankle socks, and smart girl sandals. Mom, do I have to wear all this? Lila asked just as Sarah finished dressing her. I'm afraid so, dear. Your stomach wound is still oozing a little, and the doctors have said tight jeans or trousers are off limits for now. The only dress you have here is this pretty sundress, Sarah said, slipping the dress over Lila's head. Here, give these chocolates to the nurses as a thank you. Oh, Mom, do I have to? Yes, darling. They've cared for you for the past 3 weeks, and a box of chocolates is the least we can do to show our appreciation. I watched with some pride as my new little girl thanked the nurses who had helped her. We'll see you in a few weeks when you come for your checkup, one nurse said, as the others gathered around Lila's wheelchair. Soon we were speeding home. I carried Lila up to her bedroom, where she was disappointed to find nearly all her boyish toys gone. In their place were dolls, a dollhouse, and her racing car wallpaper had been replaced with a children's nursery rhyme. Over the past 2 weeks, Sarah had styled Lila's hair more femininely and let her nails grow out. She also wore nightgowns almost all the time. After I helped her onto the bed and began to help her undress, she exclaimed, Dad, my skin feels funny. How do you mean funny? I asked. It feels softer somehow, she said, pointing to her chest. There's nothing to worry about, that's probably the first sign your chests are starting to grow, I said, trying to sound casual, though it clearly upset her. Dad, I don't want to grow chests. I just want to stay the way I am, she cried again, but with a boyish fierceness, hitting me as I tried to step back. Look, Lila, your body and mind will adjust over the next few years. Changing you into a girl was the only option. I lied to myself, as the idea of life as a eunuch felt unbearable. Right now, I just wish I were dead. How can I be a convincing girl when I've spent my whole life as a boy, she sobbed. That's why we've hired a teacher to help with your schooling and feminine manners. She knows all about you and will help with your transition before you start your new school in 2 months. What new school? She asked between sobs. Your mother and I have decided you'll attend a private girls' school. You'll need to be convincing in your behavior and attitude if you don't want to stand out, I said. Dad, I don't want to be a girl, and I don't want to go to a girls' school. I'm sorry, Lila, but it's not an option anymore. I left her crying upstairs and went down to help Sarah prepare supper. This was going to be harder than I thought. Every time Lila resisted what had happened, it felt impossible to make her see that the choice we had was the only one available. Deep down, she was still a boy. Then again, I hadn't been entirely honest. This wouldn't be easy. Sarah gave up on cooking and stormed upstairs. What's going on here, Lila? She shouted. Even I winced at the harshness in her voice. I want you to stop these tantrums and accept who you are. You're a little girl now, whether you like it or not. The sooner you face that and accept you'll grow into a woman, the better it will be for you. Lila sobbed as Sarah softened her tone. It won't be so bad. You'll still be able to do the things you loved, and you'll also get to do girl things. Remember when you used to wrinkle your nose at riding ponies because boys don't do that? Well, now you can have one of your own. Girls have even more fun than boys, you'll see. Tears streaming down her face, Lila whispered, Will you help me, Mum? I don't think I can face this alone. Yes, dear. Your dad and I will support you as much as we can. A new teacher will arrive later this month to help with your transition. Now, let's get you cleaned up. We'll go shopping tonight for some new clothes. Lila was surprisingly adept on her crutches and soon navigated the stairs to sit on the toilet. When she was ready to leave, her crutches tucked under her arms, Sarah brushed her long hair into a ponytail tied with a pink band and applied a little blush to her cheeks. At the shopping center, we bought 3 pairs of girls' slacks, 2 pairs of jeans, 3 skirts, 2 dresses, blouses, tights, knee-high socks, more cotton panties, training bras, 2 pairs of T-strap shoes for school, and a pair of wooden-soled sandals with a 1-inch heel. On the way back, we passed a jewelry store, and Sarah dragged Lila inside, telling me to take the shopping bag to the car. When they returned, Lila wore 2 new gold sleeper earrings. She was crying, adamant she didn't want them, but her mother had other ideas. Soon we were home, and Lila went upstairs to lie down. Over the next few days, Sarah continued with her feminization plan. She quickly booked an appointment at the hair salon, and Lila soon sported a very feminine hairstyle, soft curls that framed her face in gentle waves. Before long, it was time for Lila's hospital follow-up. We returned hoping for good news. X-rays of her fractured leg showed it was now strong enough to bear weight. The surgeon who performed the reassignment surgery declared the operation a great success. Lila even reported feeling sensation in her new sensitive spot when touched. However, the plastic surgeon noted that a minor procedure on her hairline would still be necessary. Lila received a booster hormone injection and was allowed to walk out on crutches. On the way home, we stopped to see a movie, but not the adventure flick Lila wanted. Sarah dragged us into a romantic comedy instead. Wearing different clothes, having surgery, and taking female hormones weren't enough to prepare Lila for life as a girl. She needed a comprehensive feminization program to develop the mannerisms, interests, expressions, and reactions expected of a female. In short, Lila had to act and speak like a girl in every way. It quickly became clear we needed to consult the psychiatrist I'd met shortly after the accident. A week after Lila's first outpatient appointment, Sarah and I met with the doctor. The psychiatrist was enthusiastic about helping us achieve our goal. She is certainly physically convincing, she said, but there are subtle signs that give her away: how she speaks, how she moves, and a lack of feminine role play. How do we fix that? I asked. We start by identifying Lila's masculine traits and finding ways to reduce or eliminate them. For example, if Lila wants to play rough games with boys, that behavior must be discouraged. Female games with other girls should be encouraged and rewarded. This won't happen overnight. It may take 2 years or more before we're truly satisfied. Your wife will play a crucial role, and her school teacher needs to be aware of these challenges. We want to encourage a feminine gait, delicate arm and hand movements, and voice inflections, while discouraging male behaviors. The treatment will be demanding but should resolve her gender identity issues and ease her emotional adjustment. Most of the work will happen at home and at school, but Lila will also visit us periodically. One of my female assistants will meet with her to monitor progress. While waiting to see me, Lila will spend about 20 minutes with the assistant every 2 weeks. In the early sessions, the assistant will listen without leading the conversation, responding neutrally to any questions Lila asks. She will not initiate topics but will positively engage with anything Lila says, regardless of gender references. In later sessions, the assistant won't entertain questions about masculine topics, instead giving brief, neutral responses, showing interest only in feminine or neutral subjects. When Lila brings up masculine topics, the assistant will express disinterest, saying things like "I'm not interested" or "I'm not going to talk about that," or will withdraw attention by looking away or reading. We'll record these conversations to track improvement in the feminine aspects of Lila's speech over time. The biggest changes will need to happen at home. Sarah, you'll use a reward system to reinforce feminine behavior, offering sweets, TV time, activities, or outings. For each feminine behavior, Lila will earn a pink token, which she can exchange for rewards based on a price list you set, for example, 5 tokens for a packet of sweets. I suggest awarding pink tokens for feminine behavior or playing with girls and issuing blue tokens for masculine gestures or body language. Like what? Sarah asked. Things like not keeping her legs or ankles together or crossed when sitting, even in slacks. After several weeks of improvement, you can address masculine speech patterns and low voice inflection while maintaining progress on sitting posture. Does Lila have any girlfriends or relatives her age to interact with? Yes, the neighbors have 2 young girls, and she has a couple of cousins nearby, I replied. I recommend inviting them over regularly. Even short play sessions can help Lila connect with her feminine side. Ultimately, feminization means suppressing masculine behaviors while nurturing and strengthening feminine ones. At school, we'll need the teacher's support. I suggest that each morning Lila starts with 10 points, and during the day, the teacher can deduct a point for any misbehavior, like disruptions, rudeness, teasing, or bullying other girls in class or on the playground. After each incident, Lila will be informed that she lost a point, with each lost point costing her 2 minutes of free time during breaks. Once the bad behavior decreases, penalties can expand to include masculine gestures or mannerisms. Lila will lose 1 point for each such trait, in addition to any misbehavior. I'll praise her at home for overcoming these traits and encourage her to do the same at school. How will you know if this approach is working? I asked. Through careful observation and measurement. After some time, Lila will return here for evaluation. As I mentioned, this process could take years. Ultimately, I'm confident Lila will display feminine deportment, mannerisms, and speech. This will require considerable support and reassurance from you as parents. Male behaviors may resurface, especially when she's anxious or upset. Sarah, I encourage you to take Lila out often to meet your female friends and spend time with adult women. This will help her interact more naturally with her new gender. Try to discourage Lila from physical or confrontational sports like football, and even some girls' sports such as hockey or netball. Instead, her exercise should focus on running and gymnastics. Doctor, I should mention we've hired a governess for Lawrence who starts in a few days, I said as we prepared to leave. Please begin calling her Lila at all times. The child can't change if you don't, the doctor replied firmly. Sorry, it won't happen again, I said, feeling chastised. Is the governess aware of the situation? She asked. Yes, That was a key reason she accepted the position. She's eager to help, I replied. Good. I'd like to meet her after she arrives. Perhaps she could bring Lila here on her first visit next week so I can brief her. What's her name? Claire Roberts, I said. She made a note and scheduled Lila's next appointment for a week later. As we headed to the car, Sarah said, Lila will have to work hard to earn those rewards. I corrected her, we're all going to have to work hard to handle this. Indeed, Lila faced a tough road ahead over the coming months, or years, before fully accepting her new female role. Claire Roberts pulled her small Metro beside my large SUV and walked quickly to the back door, where I greeted her with a warm handshake and smile. She was more attractive than I expected. She wore a pretty green dress, matching slingback shoes with 2-inch heels, and carried a coordinating handbag. She immediately asked, "Could you help me with my bags in the car trunk?" "Sure," I said. "After I get them out, you can park over there in the corner. That'll be your spot from now on." I carried her heavy cases upstairs to the spare room. She was tall, about 5'10", with an athletic build and lovely blue eyes. She wasn't strikingly beautiful, but certainly pretty. Her chest was modestly full, showing a C cup. She wore long pearl drop earrings, elegant makeup accentuating her eyes with mascara and dark shadow, and glossy red lips. "By the way, I'm James, Lila's father." "Nice to meet you," I said. "My wife and Lila are out shopping but should be back soon." Joking about her luggage, I asked, "What's in there?" "A ton of bricks?" "No, just personal belongings, books and journals I need for my work," she said, opening one case filled with volumes on child psychology. "How's Lila?" Last I heard, she was nearly ready to leave the hospital. "Has she accepted her new gender?" she asked rapidly. "She's physically fine now. She's off crutches and healed well from surgery. Her mental adjustment is our biggest concern," I replied, sitting down to discuss challenges and solutions. "You see, your role will be crucial in Lila's development as a woman," I said. "I hope I can help." "This is a truly unusual and fascinating case," she said, sitting beside the bed. "How so?" I asked. "It offers insight into how a male adjusts to becoming female." "It could make an intriguing book," she replied. We talked at length and agreed that writing a book could be worthwhile. I gave her permission to take notes and keep a diary, promising to contact publishers. As conversation drifted to other topics, I learned more about her than I expected. She was deeply interested in transgenderism and believed that forced transitions like Lila's could be applied therapeutically, perhaps even to offenders or unruly boys. "So, if a man committed a bad act, you wouldn't hesitate to remove his manhood and turn him into a woman?" I asked bluntly. "I've always believed the punishment should fit the crime," she laughed. "I think the punishment would be harsher than the crime in that case," I replied. "Perhaps you're right," she said, relaxing as she kicked off her shoes and stretched. "Tired?" I asked. "A little. I hate driving at night, it always wears me out," she said softly. "All right, why don't you get some rest? I'll wake you when Lila gets home." Not long after, I found Claire fast asleep. I returned to the kitchen and followed my wife's instructions to prepare supper. I loved cooking and didn't get many chances to do it, so I enjoyed making some special dishes. I made homemade vegetable soup and extra creamy potatoes and leeks, perfect accompaniments for my pork chop casserole. Dinner was almost ready when everyone arrived at once. Lila burst in, shouting, "Daddy," and gave me a warm hug. "Hi, sweetheart. Had a good day?" "Yes, Daddy. Mummy bought me some new dresses and a swimsuit," she exclaimed. "How about we go swimming soon?" I suggested. It's been ages since we last went. Just then Sarah arrived, carrying bags from the car. "Please get the others," she said, giving me her usual tired look. Hearing the commotion, Claire entered, still looking a bit bleary-eyed. "Hi, Lila," I'm Claire, she said, settling on a stool near the oven. Lila stayed close to me, unsure of this new visitor. I'm going to be your personal teacher, Lila, Claire continued. My job is to help you become a young lady. Lila approached and shook her hand. Will you help me be like you? Not exactly like me, but I hope you'll grow into a modern young woman, Claire smiled. Dinner's ready, I called, carrying the serving dishes. Everyone to the dining room. Claire, please take a tray. We all enjoyed the meal. You're a great cook, Claire complimented me. I try, I blushed. No, seriously, it's delicious, she said. Sarah and Lila agreed. They say men make the best chefs, I joked. After dinner, Claire asked Lila to help clear the dishes. You'll be expected to do chores after supper. Your father has other things to do, and it's important you pull your weight, Claire explained. Lila agreed, surprising us all since she hadn't shown much interest in household tasks before. Chapter 7, Developments. Claire began teaching Lila almost immediately. Over the weeks, they became inseparable. Lila hung on her every word, and it was clear Claire was influencing her attitude toward her new gender. Day by day, I saw changes, her mannerisms, attitude, and willingness to help around the house all improved, showing the process was progressing well. About 3 months later, Claire knocked on my workshop door one evening. Can I talk to you for a moment? She asked. Sure, I said, turning off the wood-turning machine. I hung up my apron and followed her outside to the picnic bench I'd built earlier that year. She began speaking. I think Lila has accepted her new gender too well, she said. Too well? Isn't that good? I replied. Yes and no. What's wrong? Though she still shows some traces of her male past, she's eager to explore her new orientation. You mean she wants to have fun now? She's only 12, I said, referring to Lila's recent birthday. No, not yet. She wants to understand how she should relate to men and what it'll be like when she's older. Oh, I see, I said, relieved. I'll start giving her education tomorrow so she'll be prepared, Claire said. That's fine by me. I can't discuss these things with her as a man anymore, so a woman teaching her is perfect, I added. Her adjustment has been impressive. Outside, she looks and sounds like a bubbly 12-year-old girl now. I just hope she's adjusting inside as well. I believe she is. It's remarkable how much she's changed. How so? I asked. Look closely. You'll notice little mannerisms, how she runs her hand through her hair or flicks it away from her eyes. She loves wearing jewelry. I counted 3 rings on her hand. She just got a second set of ear piercings and adores long, dangling earrings. This surprised me. I'd been so wrapped up in work and hobbies that I hadn't noticed the changes. I'm obviously missing something. I try to support her, but work keeps me away most of the day. I understand, Claire said. No need to feel guilty. It's hard balancing work and all this, I gestured toward the house. Don't worry, Lila needs more female influence in her life. In some ways, your absence will help. Okay, I replied. With a week left before the school term began, Lila went shopping with Claire and Sarah for her new school uniform. She came home with a green blazer, blouses, a green kilt, and green and black tights. Sarah also bought a couple of pairs of flesh-colored tights, which Lila wore under her dress to my parents' anniversary celebration. Once she started school, Lila's behavior reports and grades improved noticeably. She seemed to be adapting well to the changes in her new body. She wore skirts and dresses almost all the time and experimented with various feminine hairstyles. Her interest in boyish activities faded to the point that she never rode the mountain bike I'd bought her, claiming the saddle was uncomfortable for her sensitive new anatomy. 6 months later, we returned to the hospital for a minor procedure to lower her hairline slightly. The change made a big difference. Lila no longer looked like a boy in a skirt. She was truly our little girl now. Sarah encouraged Lila's posture and movements and regularly bought her new clothes and shoes. Each time Lila received a shopping bag, her enthusiasm was infectious. There was some emotional turmoil when Lila's chest began developing. Initially, her hormone regimen was mild, but at 13, the doctors increased her dosage significantly. Within weeks, Lila complained of tenderness in her chest and chest area. While Sarah and Claire witnessed these changes up close, I noticed them as well. "Dad, look at me now," she exclaimed, running into my den after a shopping trip for new lingerie. Sure enough, two modest buds peeked from beneath her snug sweater. "You look adorable, dear," I said, hugging her affectionately. "Claire says I'll need to wear a bra now," she said excitedly. "You don't mind, do you?" "No, Dad. I've seen Mum's bras and I want some too," she giggled. "That's good," I smiled at her. "You'll be grown up before you know it, so don't rush it. Mum says I'm lucky I won't have periods like other girls, but I know I'm growing up," she said, glancing down at her new curves. Not everything was joyful. There were times of depression when Lila realized her male past was gone and that she must live as a female. Part of this struggle stemmed from her developing chest. Within a year, the hormone treatment had significantly increased her bust size. She was now a natural 32B. Her hair was allowed to grow long, flowing well past her shoulders. Claire and Sarah insisted it be carefully styled and trimmed so it remained bouncy and healthy. Whenever we went out, we insisted Lila wear a skirt or dress. Though sometimes reluctant, she complied. These influences gradually softened her resistance, helping her accept that the change wasn't so bad after all. Perhaps the strongest influence was my younger sister Lauren's wedding. Lauren had always taken an interest in Lila's progress since the accident and joked that Lila could be a bridesmaid at her wedding. Lauren wanted a traditional ceremony, with dresses, church, and reception, meaning Lila would need to be fitted for a dress. At first, things went smoothly, but soon Lila began to resist the idea of wearing a fancy dress and her first high heels. "Mum, I can't walk in these," she said when Sarah handed her 2-inch court shoes. "Why not?" "All girls like wearing heels," Sarah replied. "This dress is so long it drags on the floor." "I'll trip and fall," Lila grumbled, ignoring the comment about the heels. "Let's get you changed and see how you feel," Sarah suggested. Quietly, Lila stood as the lingerie and dress were fitted. She took her first steps in heels. "Well?" Sarah asked. "I like it, sort of," Lila answered. "Sort of?" Sarah pressed. "No, Mum, I like it a lot." "Am I really pretty now?" Lila asked with a smile. "You look very pretty, dear." "Go look in the mirror in my bedroom," Sarah said. Lila soon came back beaming. "I really like it," she gushed, swishing her lace-trimmed skirt back and forth. "How do I look, Dad?" she asked as she twirled over to me. "Perfect." "Absolutely perfect," I said, looking up from my newspaper. "Thanks, Dad," she said, kissing my cheek before wiping off her lipstick. "Lipstick too?" I teased. "Yes, Mum says I should wear it now," she said, flashing a lovely smile framed with pink color. The wedding went wonderfully. Lila's photo in her bridesmaid dress affirmed her new role in society. We framed the picture and hung it above the mantelpiece. Her interest in female fashion blossomed, and naturally, we encouraged it. She now had a wardrobe overflowing with girls' clothes. A few months after the wedding, I entered the lounge to find Lila sitting with her legs tucked beneath her, watching a program on satellite TV. She wore a dress paired with 10 stockings, her nails long and pointed but unpolished, and her hair gleamed, cascading down the middle of her back. "Hi, Dad," she said without taking her eyes off the screen. "Hi, Lila. Could you move your feet? I'd like to sit for a bit." "Okay, Dad," she replied, sliding her legs out and smoothing her skirt. "So, how's my girl today?" I asked. "Fine, Dad," she murmured, still focused on the TV. "Can we talk without this?" I gestured toward the television, which had just gone to commercial, then switched it off. Dad, I was watching that, she said, a hint of annoyance in her voice. I just wanted to check on you, I said. All right, Dad. I'm fine, she answered. Good. Can I have a hug? Sure, Dad, she said, moving closer. I caught the scent of her freshly washed hair as I kissed her forehead. Pulling back, I looked into her face. Lila, you're a very pretty young woman now. The boys will be after you soon, I said. I know, Dad. I notice them looking when I go shopping, she replied. How does that make you feel? I asked. I kind of like it, knowing they find me interesting, she said, shifting her nylon-covered legs to reveal more thigh. Your school reports are excellent. Your progress has amazed the doctors and your teacher. Your mother and I have talked about rewarding you, and we're planning a long holiday in the sun in a couple of weeks, I said. Where are we going? She asked, suddenly curious. Well, your mother and I thought a couple of weeks in the Caribbean would be perfect, I said, hoping for her approval. Wow, she said, excited. Can Claire come too? Yes, she's coming along. We booked her tickets as a reward for all her hard work helping you, I answered. That trip held special meaning. It would be our last family vacation. Sarah's increasingly frequent, painful headaches had been diagnosed as a rare disorder, and she was dying. Her loss deeply affected Lila, and I told her I expected her to take on the role of lady of the house. No, Dad, Lila said with a smile. You'll marry Claire now, I just know it. The years flew by, and as Lila passed her 18th birthday, she blossomed into a beautiful and graceful young woman. While she loved the latest fashions, she also developed into a sensible and well-rounded individual. Her training and eventual acceptance of her new identity had transformed her into a stunning swan. She had a tall, slender figure, standing an inch taller than my 5'9" frame. Her style was always tasteful. She wore slacks most days, but when she chose a dress, her long legs rivaled any woman's. Aside from a touch of lipstick, she rarely wore makeup, and her complexion was healthy and glowing. Like any father, I worried about her. I'd ask where she was going at night and reminded her to call me or her stepmother immediately if she needed help. Not long after Lila's 16th birthday, Claire and I exchanged wedding vows, seemingly with Sarah's blessing. She had left some handwritten notes tucked among her things. I can take care of myself, Lila told me once. I know where a guy's weak spots are. Just don't get yourself into trouble, okay? Claire would add. It was clear Lila's behavior would lead to a relationship with someone, whether a man or a woman. A few months after her 18th birthday, she proudly introduced Oliver, a 20-year-old student she'd met at college. Dad, this is Oliver, she announced one Friday evening, arriving home early from a night out. Pleased to meet you, mister, he offered his hand. Hello, I said casually, folding my arms. How did you meet my daughter? We met in the college refectory. All her books fell out of her bag, and I helped her pick them up. Oh, really? I smiled. We started talking, agreed to go on a date, and hit it off. Lila shares a lot of my interests. Like what? I asked, noting Lila's concerned glance. Mostly music and literature, but we have a lot in common. So, you like my daughter? Planning to marry her? I do like her, but we've only known each other a few weeks, so it's too soon for weddings. We have to focus on our studies. Marriage isn't possible until after your courses? I pressed. No, sir. Also, Lila told me she's transgender, he said. And? We'd have to leave the UK to marry legally as transgenders, he explained. So, you want to marry her? I asked again. I'm not sure yet. All I know is she's wonderful, he replied. At that moment, Claire came home and joined us. She seemed pleased with Lila's choice, and I gradually warmed to Oliver as well. Only the best was good enough for Lila, who eventually moved near Oliver's parents in Newcastle to start a home. She decided nursing would be a fitting career. Claire and I still visit her regularly on brief trips. No one would guess she wasn't born a girl. Her wavy hair flows down her back, her curves are in all the right places, and she will always be my little girl. Don't forget to join me on Patreon for exclusive content.